Welcome to the Online Success Journey Podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey Podcast, Patience.
Hello everyone and welcome to Online Success Journey. This is episode 272. Today we have Kristin Molenaar, the CEO of YesBoss, a digital agency that helps service-based business owners book podcasting features. Her passion is helping entrepreneurs ditch the vanity metrics for the connections. Hello, Kristin.
Thank you for having me, Patience. I'm excited to be here and chat with you today.
Thank you for coming. I know the client here is anxious to hear your story, so let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my client a little bit about your background, about what you did before you started your agency?
Well, my background started with entrepreneurial failure is what I usually say. That's where my entrepreneurial journey started. I left my last corporate job in late 2014, and I thought that because I was a fantastic employee, I would be a fantastic entrepreneur. And I hope you can sense the sarcasm in my voice there. I was not a fantastic entrepreneur for the first 14 months. I really struggled. I was doing all the things to try to market my business and get myself out there as a coach and consultant in the beauty industry, because that was my corporate background. And I struggled severely for 14 months. And because I was living at my in-laws' house at the time, I knew, 14 months is a bit overkill. Like, it's time for me to just do something, anything that will make some money. And because I didn't want to sacrifice the freedom, the location freedom that I now had, I decided to become a virtual assistant. So I got my first virtual assistant gig, and that really started what became a journey of being an agency owner for me. So I went from being a virtual assistant myself to running a virtual assistant agency. And now my company has completely niched down into helping mostly service-based entrepreneurs, people that serve other entrepreneurs, get booked as podcast guests, because we have found that it's been a fantastic way to kind of grow your network. It's essentially become a really lucrative lead generation strategy for us and our clients. So that's now all we do. My agency just focuses on that.
What a background, Kristin. What a journey. What is the most dangerous belief an online entrepreneur can have?
I think that the most dangerous belief that I've seen entrepreneurs have is that their business is their baby. And I'll explain what I mean by this. A lot of people, they find so much fulfillment in running their business. And I think that that's fantastic. I think that that's kind of the magic behind being an entrepreneur. But since becoming a mom myself, I have a 3-year-old. What I realize is that when we have a baby, that baby is going to get older. And the idea of raising your baby is that they have a sense of independence. And I don't think that very many entrepreneurs or enough entrepreneurs are really seeing their business like this. I think that their entrepreneurial journey and everything they do as an entrepreneur is so tied to themselves that they aren't able to separate the difference between being self-employed, which means that you're on the hook for everything, and really being an entrepreneur. I think that seeing your business as your baby becomes a self-sabotaging way to go about your business, because you have to see your business as an entity outside of yourself if you want it to grow beyond the confines of what you yourself can do. And if you ever want to have any freedom, you have to treat your business as a separate entity. So you've got to see it as something that you are working on building to have independence in its own right outside of you.
Thank you for sharing. I know you want to really get these people also to make sure they feature on other podcasts and get their words out, know how to really sell themselves. But why do you do what you do?
I do what I do because I say that my zone of genius is talking and connecting. So I'm not really a finisher. I am not really great with being consistent. I have all these things that I think a lot of people would say would be a hindrance in making me a successful entrepreneur. Because what I like to do is I'm a people person. I like showing up. I like meeting new people. I enjoy networking. Like this comes very naturally to me. And so I have found that being a podcast guest allows me to show up, connect with people. You know, you and I, Patience, were like sitting in the room together, just chatting. Like this, the idea that this is work just kind of makes me want to pinch myself sometimes. Like this is kind of crazy to me. So I have found that this is what I need to do because it helps me connect with more people. And at the root of connection, or when you put connection at the root of your business, you are really setting yourself up to grow something. The more people that know about you and the more people that can advocate on your behalf or on behalf of your business, the more your business can grow. Even if I have found you're not necessarily a natural finisher yourself, if you're not consistent yourself, like the nature of being a podcast guest is that you're having like almost like a sales call or a discovery call and a coaching call and a networking call, like all wrapped up in this one recording that then gets broadcast to everybody. So that really fits like who I am. I can show up and be casual and just kind of chat with almost anybody. So this really just fits the mold of who I am.
I know before you said you were struggling. So let's put man aside. How do you know you are successful?
There are two ways that I measure success for myself. And the very first thing for me was that I knew that I wanted to become an entrepreneur because I wanted freedom. So actually for me, before ever measuring financial results, I was measuring my freedom. Like how much freedom did I feel that I had? And that to me really meant like, how much do I have to work to make enough to survive, right? So for me, it was like, how do I make like my first, $60,000, $70,000 a year? Like that feels very comfortable to me. I could survive on that. That's a first benchmark. And how do I get there without sacrificing my freedom? And I think that so many entrepreneurs think that freedom is something for someday. And what I have discovered is that freedom is really all about how you strategically build your business. So I knew that I was successful when I could pay my bills. And that meant, moving out of my in-laws' house into our own apartment. My business was financially sustaining my household, but I was not having to work a lot. I grew actually to my first 6 figures working 5 hours per week because I was so focused on that like leveraging and making sure that I was putting people and processes in place to really run my business. And then since getting to that point, now my focus is on more monetary gain. But monetary gain was something for me that was second to having that freedom. And the interesting thing about that is that when you read books about reaching your first 100,000, everybody's talking about, like do all the things, like hustle to get there. You've got to be out there in all the ways possible and making, always closing sales. And like, it's just this like hustle mentality to get to that first 100,000. But what I've noticed over the last couple of years, as I really study what it takes to get to that first million, is that the message being told to 6-figure entrepreneurs is that to scale beyond that, you've got to actually pull away from your business. You've got to actually start leveraging your time and working less so that the business isn't bottlenecked by what you can do yourself. And what I've found is that having that strategy, the work less, make more strategy, even to get to that first 100,000, I'm not having to adjust so many things that I'm doing now to reach my first million. And I think that that is a big hurdle for a lot of people to try to get out of that hustle. So I'm just really thankful that freedom was at the root of what defines success for me right from the get-go.
Wow. You mentioned the working 5 hours a week. How did you do that?
Well, I feel like in the name of full transparency and authenticity, I'll say that, I no longer do I work just 5 hours. I probably work 10 to 15 hours a week now when I'm doing guest podcasting. I do guest podcasting and I do all my sales calls and I write some content. That's my job now. However, when I was working just 5 hours per week, the reason that I was working just 5 hours per week is because I was treating my business like a side hustle and I had other businesses that I was pursuing. So I kind of came into this a little bit organically, I would say. I was working more than 40 hours per week, but only 5 of it was focused on this business that was fully supporting my household. I was doing other things that I thought were my quote unquote, like real businesses, like other coaching and consulting endeavors. But those businesses were like flatlining it when it came to finances. Those businesses, I think the first business made like $5,000, the second business made $7,000. Then the business that I was only working 5 hours per weekend, the virtual assistant agency, it wasn't making, started with, 40,000 and then 80,000 and then over 100,000. And it was just growing. And so when I looked at it, I just thought, oh my gosh, I am not really being a good steward of what's been given to me. I'm treating this business that's making a ton of money, or making money with very little effort. I'm treating it like, the ugly duckling over here and spending all my time on these other things. But that's also when I analyzed things and really looked at it all with a critical eye, that's when I realized that my involvement or over involvement in what I was doing was really being the bottleneck. The businesses where everything was on me, where I was responsible for marketing, I was responsible for fulfillment, I was responsible for everything. I was the business. Those businesses were not gaining the traction that the virtual assistant agency was because I wasn't leveraging anything. I wasn't leveraging people. I didn't have anybody on my team and I wasn't leveraging any processes. So that's the full story of that, like 5 hours per week. I feel like it needs a lot of background added to it.
Wow. Thank you for clarifying, because I saw that and I was like, 5 hours a week. I know there is a book there, 5 hours a week. But I was like, you need to put in 70 hours before you can work these 5 hours a week. So I was really itching to really get that one out of the way. So thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, I think the thing that's interesting is that the virtual assistant stuff never took a lot of time because of how I approached it. Like, my very first client paid me just $15 an hour, which is not enough to sustain yourself. Like that, you're not going to become financially independent making $15 an hour, not in the US anyways. And so, but right with that very first client, I started outsourcing that work at $15 an hour. I started outsourcing it to somebody else that I was paying $7 or $8 an hour. And so I right away started passively making $7 or $8 an hour myself, which meant that I didn't have to add hours to my own personal schedule to continue to make more money. It was just that I was doing all the things and making all the mistakes in these other businesses that I had going on. So I don't know. I wish that I could have learned a little bit sooner, right?
No, you did it. So thank you. Those are the stories we need to know and learn from to make sure that, those people you see that, okay, they are up there, they have done it. Yeah, there is also some stamps they went through and then also they learn from that and that's why they are up the ladder. So that's why I call you here to share your story.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, you've been in business for a long time. Can anyone be an entrepreneur, or are some people more cut out for it than others?
So I think that there is a specific kind of person that's made to be an entrepreneur. I think that you can learn to be an entrepreneur, but I think that there's this evaluation that needs to happen and also this redefinition, or like kind of bringing us back to the definition of entrepreneurship. It wasn't until the internet really that businesses could be, these everybody could DIY their business. You needed to have people and processes. And I think because we can do everything ourselves, I think that entrepreneurship and the definition that everybody has in their mind of what entrepreneurship is has changed. I think that a lot of people, they call themselves entrepreneurs, but really they're self-employed. I think that anybody could be self-employed. If you want to create a business where it's just you and you are having to do all the work and you don't have a team in place, there's no leveraging, that's fine. But in my mind, that's self-employment versus entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship really is being a visionary leader. And I keep saying this over and over, but it's a visionary leader that puts people and processes in place. It's creating a company that is outside of yourself, that has success, that's not just only tied to what you can bring to the table. So, my answer is anybody could choose to be self-employed. Being an entrepreneur, I think that you can learn it, but there are some hurdles. And I think oftentimes they're mindset hurdles that you have to get over in order to be successful in entrepreneurship. But anybody can learn that.
Tell us the reason why being a podcast guest is efficient for many entrepreneurs, and how can they profit being podcast guests?
So being a podcast guest, I feel, is typically looked at as one of two things. Either people see being a podcast guest as a traditional marketing strategy. So in a traditional marketing strategy, the idea is that you want to get in front of a large audience. You show up and share your story, share your tips in front of a large audience, right? And the idea is that audience then wants to hire you. That's traditional marketing. The other way that people see being a podcast guest is they see it as traditional PR. So PR says, get yourself on as big of a podcast as possible so that you can leverage that logo, being featured on Forbes or being featured on, Inc. magazine, that kind of thing. Like you want to have that logo to establish credibility. So people usually put podcast guesting in one of those two categories. I see podcast guesting totally different. I see podcast guesting as an opportunity to connect with people of influence that are in your industry. So like Patience, this is all about connecting with you for me. How can I show up, get to know you more, and serve your audience in a way that makes you feel like it was worth having me here? Like, how can I provide value to what you are doing? And so really, I call it networking on steroids, because as a podcast guest myself, I actually thought that what would happen is that people would, sign up for my freebie offer and I would nurture them through my email list. And while that does happen, it happens to such a to a smaller degree, much, much smaller degree than I thought would happen. What is the most successful thing for me is when I connect with somebody and they're like, hey, either they know that they need my service or they're connected with somebody else that needs my service. So what I would tell people is if you're considering being a podcast guest, it's essential to look at these people that you're connecting with podcast hosts, look at them as connections. And the power is, yes, you've got to show up and do a good job in the interview. You've got to bring value to the table and give actionable advice. And those are all essential pieces of the puzzle. But the most essential piece is treating the person who's interviewing you as a new relationship that you have and as a new connection, and maintaining that and following up the podcast conversation with, how can I be of value to your business? Are there any ways that I can serve what you're doing to a greater capacity? Is there anybody in my network that I can introduce you to? And actually maintaining that relationship.
What have you learned from business as a whole?
Oh gosh, what if I learned from business as a whole? I feel like so many things. I've learned, to be very personal in my answer. I mean, being an entrepreneur has been the greatest spiritual journey for me. I've realized that I can only do so many things. But if I trust that I'm being a good steward of the gifts that I've been given, that God can magnify those things and bring greater ripple effects into my life. Like he uses me showing up and being a good steward of that. He uses that to create impact. I've also learned that entrepreneurship is not something that is worthwhile if you're doing it by yourself. I've had, like I talked about, I had, this virtual assistant agency, and then I had other businesses on the side that I thought were going to be like my real business, but I did them alone. And when I did them alone, there was no fulfillment in that. And, I had tried to bring on a few business partners in those other endeavors because I didn't want to be alone. But I'm so grateful today to say that I have an amazing team that helps me with my business. What makes them valuable is not so much the task work that they do, but the fact that they have the same vision and they want to make the same impact that I do. That is really what is fulfilling to me, having people alongside me that share in my vision. And it's so rewarding to do this with other people. So, the fact that I guess the thing that I've learned there is not to do it alone. There's only so much impact you could have, and there's only so much fulfillment to be had when you're functioning by yourself.
Tell us how to build a simple sales funnel in the world, and you require no fancy tech, and you'll be successful.
Yeah.
How can that happen?
So what I have noticed about being a podcast guest is that the nurturing that is required in a traditional sales funnel happens all within like one conversation. So one thing that I wish that I had learned sooner was what is a sales funnel? What are the essential elements of a sales funnel? So to be a successful business owner, you have to be able to attract your ideal client, nurture those people that you have attracted, sell to those people that you've attracted, fulfill on your promises to them, and essentially retain them as clients. So there's those, if you see it as like a funnel, attract, nurture, sell, retain is how that looks. A lot of people are focused on just one or sometimes even two of those phases in their business. They may be attracting people because they have a great Instagram account, or they may be nurturing people because they have a great email sales funnel. But what's happening is that unless you are doing all of these phases, unless you are attracting, nurturing, and selling and retaining your clients, you don't really have a business that has longevity. And what happens is when people learn about these sales funnels, they sit behind their computer and they get fancy software and create fancy web pages and put together fancy technology to help them to bring people through the sales process, right? They have this idea of creating like passive income, and they sit there and kind of wonder what to say to their ideal client and wonder how to connect with them. What I have found is that as a podcast guest, the connection that happens in an interview is the same kind of connection that happens through a really good sales funnel. You are attracting new attention, you're nurturing that, and people know whether or not they want to hire you because of what you're showing up to share. So what I say is, to be an effective podcast guest is, you've got to really talk about exactly what you do. If you have a specific methodology, so for me, it's like getting people on podcasts to be a guest. My methodology is, how we pitch people, how we do that research, how you actually show up and be a profitable guest. My goal is to come on episodes and share exactly those things. Essentially, like, give people the knowledge to do my job for me. But I know that the ideal clients are the people that want to leverage their money to get more growth in their business. So they hire us instead. They want to just say, just get it done. You're the expert. You do it. And so, during the interview, essentially, you're taking people through a full sales funnel process. All of those psychological things that need to be checked off in somebody's mind is happening in a natural conversation. You don't have to focus on more followers. You don't have to focus on any of the vanity metrics. Like, you just show up, provide value, give as much actionable advice as you possibly can, and all the rest kind of happens for you. It felt like magic. I'll be honest and say, when this started happening for me, I wondered, like, is there something special that I'm doing that I'm not aware of? And when we started doing this for our clients, we noticed, like, no, it's a formula. It's this works with people other than just Kristin. This works with our clients as well. It's really pretty awesome. It enables you to show up and really function in your zone of genius and provide valuable content for people.
What is one thing no one knows about you?
I have a phobia of tags on clothing. This is like a really odd thing to share. Yeah, none of my clothing have like tags in them. So I cut it out of everything. Like even if I could like take out the seam to get it out from in the seam, I do that. I'm like really OCD about it. I knew my husband loved me when he started cutting tags out of his clothing for me. And then sometimes like if I'm at a friend's house or something and, they offer me a sweatshirt or something, usually the reason I don't wear other people's clothes, even if it's just because I'm like cold, is because I don't want to deal with the tags in other people's clothing. Oh, when I've given my clothes or like donated my clothes to like Goodwill or something, when I'm done with them, I've thought that too. Like, how is anybody going to know if this is their size? Because there's no indication on any of it.
Thank you for sharing. Tell us how to ditch the vanity metrics for true connections and build a successful business.
Yeah, focus on connecting with people. I learned that there's so much more fulfillment and profit that comes from connection when I went to a in-person conference, actually. So what I observed other people doing is that everyone tends to be focused on their one next sale. So person that you're talking to right now, you want to know if they're going to buy the thing that you have to offer. Like that seems to be the like entrepreneurial method, sell the person in front of you. This is what I found to be true. And it's just straight math, honestly. If you sell to the person in front of you, like that's just one sale. However, if you connect with the person in front of you and really bring value to what they're doing, if you are just a trusted person in their network, you will really, truly want to be curious about how you can be valuable to them. You are curious about their needs and their wants, and you just want to be of value. What I have found happens is the value of that connection increases multiple times over. So the example that I have that really just drove this point home for me is I went to an in-person conference in 2018 and I met this girl who needed what I was selling. And instead of trying to get her to buy what I sold, I really just talked to her about what I offered. When she asked me questions about like hiring the right person and how to do what my company did, I answered them honestly. Like I treated her like a friend. I gave her free advice essentially, and she didn't hire me. And I could have been really bummed out about that. But what ended up happening is she has referred, 5, 6, 7 clients to me at least. And what happens is the people that she refers to me, she has basically sold them on my behalf. She has told them how amazing I am and then introduced us over email. And I don't even have to have a like traditional sales call with them. They just want to hop on a call and talk about how they can give me their money so that I can start providing support to them. Like they're ready to work with me. It's also opened up opportunities to become like a guest expert in some of the communities that she's built and additional ways to grow my business outside of just gaining one client at a time. So I think that, this really has showcased for me that connection is what it's all about. If you connect with enough people, as we all grow our businesses, we will meet other people that could use the services of all the rest of the people in our network. And so we've got to stop focusing on just that one next sale and focus on getting connected with somebody who we really want to just invite to be part of our network.
What grounds you?
I would say what grounds me is the time that I spend alone reading my Bible and journaling. Just making sure that I'm staying spiritually connected and that my prayers are just, Lord, tell me how to be a good steward of the things that you've given me today, and trying to reorient my mind to being in the present moment. That is what really keeps me grounded.
In your businesses, do you have a mentor or a coach?
I tend to burn through mentors. Wow. So I've hired a couple coaches officially. One of them was really great. She helped me just with the agency model in general. But what I found is that I typically am looking for really specific information about business that helps me grow from one level to the next. So I read a lot of books and listen to a lot of podcasts when I'm hyper focusing on a certain subject. I don't tend to hire one-on-one coaches. I do like mastermind groups though. I've found that those are a really great wealth of knowledge. You get, the feedback of the mentor or the person leading the mastermind group, but then you also get the community that is in there with you, like the peers that are in there with you. And I found that watching other people get coaching can be really valuable to my business. And just having that peer coaching environment tends to bring more value to me than just hiring somebody that's a one-off.
What is the most valuable thing your mastermind has told you?
That's a good question. The mastermind that I'm in right now is a LinkedIn mastermind. So the purpose of it is to kind of help each other build up a successful LinkedIn, a LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn content. And so for that particular mastermind, helping me understand how my content comes across to somebody on the other end, that has been the most valuable to me, so that I know that I'm speaking the language of my ideal audience. It's been really great. And that's the most value I've gotten from that.
What is the most valuable thing you have ever given away?
Because I'm not a coach or a consultant, I tend to freely give business advice. I don't monetize my advice. I have a done for you service. So it's really freed me up to just be able to give people advice. So I would say, just helping people, specifically helping people learn how to get out of the weeds of their business. I talk to people a lot about, bringing on team members and how to grow past being a one-person show. I think that's probably the thing of greatest value that I've given away.
Tell my client about the magic moment, the day it suddenly all went right for you.
That was when I went to an in-person event. I had been looking for a niche that I could really own. And this was the first time that we niched down. This is in 2018. So I went to an in-person conference, and from the stage, the host of the event was telling the audience that they needed to launch an online show or a summit so that they could build their email list. And in that moment, I realized, oh my gosh, I've done this for clients before. This would be a very simple niche for my business to focus on. And so it was a 3-day event. And at the second half of day 1, every time that I was introduced myself to somebody new that was at that event, I told them, my name is Kristin Molenaar and I run an agency that specializes in online summits. Because I realized that I'm sitting in the room with over 1,000 people that are being told that they need this thing that I know how to do. And so what happened is, I met a number of people in that room that knew they needed what I offered. And I just seized an opportunity in the moment when I saw it. I really didn't put a lot of thought behind it. I didn't prepare. I mean, the preparation that I had done in giving myself credit here is that I had done this before, but I didn't have the team that could help support me. I just thought I could teach somebody how to do this. We'll just go for it. I'll figure it out, figure out how to handle the clients as they come to me. And what happened is we generated our first 6 figures within 10 months. It was really amazing. I credit it to taking action without getting in my head about it. And I followed up. It became about okay, I met all these people that I know need what I offer. Let's maintain these relationships and follow up with them. And what started happening is people started hiring me. And then the people that didn't hire me started sending referrals my way. It felt like magic. It really felt like magic.
Let's talk about your business. Tell us more about it and who can join it.
So our business is very simple. We do done for you podcast bookings. So we write the pitch for our clients. We send the pitches on behalf of our clients. So we do unique custom research for every single one of our clients. When you work with us, we talk about what kind of podcasts and podcasts you would like to be featured on and what kind of podcast hosts are going to be the most valuable to add to your network. So we write a pitch tailored to that, and we do unique pitching research for that. We also do our work under the email address of our client's company. So under that umbrella, we believe that all of the connections that we're making when we're pitching you, you should own all of those connections. So, a traditional booking agency might send emails to people within their network, their existing network, to try to get you featured on podcasts, that they already are connected with, and they're communicating with them as the agency, representing you, but as the agency. The way that we do this is different. We actually function as an extended member of your team. So we have found this to be of greater value because when we end the relationship, you still have all of these new connections that you can maintain relationships with. So that's the way that we function in our business. And our favorite kind of client to serve is other done-for-you service providers. I feel that other service providers tend not to I don't know, they just don't see that there's value in them being a podcast guest. Like, it's kind of people that are coaches and consultants tend to think that being a podcast guest is like a no-brainer. It's those service-based providers that don't necessarily realize it, but they typically have a specific methodology. They have a specific way that they serve their clients. And if they get on podcasts and they start talking about it, more people will know about them, and that will generate more referrals for their business because of the establishing of that know, like, and trust factor with the people that they're talking to.
Where can we find your service and how can we connect with you?
So if you're interested in information about being a podcast guest, we have our website, YesBossVA.com. We have a masterclass for people that are interested in DIY. And if you're interested in done-for-you services, you can definitely connect with us there. And the only social media platform that I hang out on is LinkedIn. And because of the unique spelling of my last name, thank you to my husband, you could just search for my name in LinkedIn, Kristin Molenaar, and I'm the only one there.
How do we spell Molenaar?
Molenaar.
So, Clan, there will be more from Kristin in a moment. If you are listening on one of the many podcasting platforms rather than my website and you are encouraged by Kristin's journey, go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for a bonus portion of the interview. The Online Success Journey is a wonderful membership community built for people searching for the path to success. We are one big clan and you can be part of this journey for free. Once you have joined the clan, click on part 2 of Kristin's journey or over 250 other journeys that are available and learn how you can find the right path for your own online success journey. That's a wrap, clan. Remember, success is a journey. Patience and Kristin.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to part 1 and want to be sure you know there is a second part to this and every journey podcast at onlinesuccessjourney.com, filled with even more success tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. There are dozens of episodes only available to the members of the Online Success Journey clan. Check out the website and click on Join the Clan for more information. Patience would like to thank you for listening to this podcast, and she has a free audio gift for you at her website. Go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for instant access to this gift. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps each of us chart our own path. So make sure you're subscribed to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the Online Success Journey and to listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review it at Stitcher and other sites by clicking the stars or completing the ratings form, by clicking thumbs up and leaving a comment on YouTube, or liking and sharing the podcast on social media. To review the podcast within iTunes, simply open iTunes to the podcast, click on Ratings and Reviews, then write a review. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.